Tackling Leetcode question 20 titled valid parentheses. We're given an input string here with the parameter name s when we're supposed to return a boolean stating whether this input string is true or not. And this question is basically referring to parentheses. So our string can only contain this set of characters here. Basically, with each type of parentheses, it has an opening and also its closing version, right? So basically, if you look at this, there is the normal open parentheses and closing. We also have a curly brace opening and curly closing parentheses, and the square version, and also its closing square version, right? So an input string is valid only if the brackets is closed by the same type of bracket. Basically, if we open with this bracket here, it's supposed to be closed by this bracket, right? It can't be closed with a curly brace or a square bracket. That's what it means by the first one. And the open brackets must be closed in the correct order. So I guess like if it's opened, this normal open parentheses, it should be followed by a closed one. It doesn't have to be the next statement, the next character. It could be a subsequent character. So essentially, what I mean by that is if we have an example like this, right? This is still considered valid because we open this one and then basically we open a curly brace, but the curly brace is closed, so this is valid. So imagine we can remove it, right? Then this closing bracket, the opening of the normal bracket is followed by the closing. So this input is still considered valid. It doesn't have to necessarily mean opening and then immediately after it has to be closed. So just wanted to point that out. So basically, this question is sort of like screaming to us that we have to use this stack data structure to solve this question. And I think it's pretty common for parentheses question that we can sort of like think in that way. Usually, so far that I've encountered, I think the reason why it popped up in my mind that we can consider a stack format is because of the order of it is quite important, right? So the strategy here, what we're going to do is basically whenever we see an opening bracket, we are going to add the closing version of it to the stack. And whenever we encounter the stack version, we're going to check if it meets the stack, the character that's already existing in the stack. And if it is, we just pop it out of the stack. And if it's not, then basically it's an invalid string, right? So that's basically the thought process here, using a stack to kind of like keep track of the closing version of the bracket, and whenever we encounter a closing version of bracket, we just pop it up from the stack, right? So let's jump straight into the code and see how we're going to do this. So if s is empty, basically I guess it's false because actually I'm not too sure whether it's true or false. Sometimes in the empty scenario it's considered true, but I'm just going to return false here because there's no parentheses. And basically, like I said, we need a stack. I'm just going to call it a holder here, and the stack is basically just a normal array. What we're going to do here is we're going to look through the string here with this character in S, looking through the input string here. And I'm just going to use a switch statement here. You can also use an if-else statement, that's also fine. Because I declared the stack as a string format, I'm just going to convert it to a string version of the car. And let's switch the statement here. So if we encounter an opening parentheses, and let me just type out all the possible opening parentheses here, right? And of course we need a default statement for a switch to handle all other cases that's not these three cases, right? And basically whenever we encounter an opening bracket, or at least the opening portion of parentheses, we're going to add the closing version of the parentheses into the stack, which is the holder here. So essentially what we're going to do here is holder append and add the closing version of it, and then append the closing version of it, right, which is the curly brace. and then again append the closing version of the opening parentheses. So that's about it. So whenever we encounter other strings, so in this question we can only encounter these 6 combination of characters. So if it's not one of these opening, it's basically the closing of it, right? And what we're going to do here is we're going to check whether it matches the last character of the stack. Essentially, because we need to ensure the order is correct, right? So the reason why we also check last and stack is suitable because of the principle it operates, which is the first in, last out, as opposed to queues, which is first in, first out, right? So here, what we're going to do is if holder is not empty, just because we don't want to deal with index out of bounds, and actually, let me just get last car and then holder of last. If holder of last character here equals to car, which is the current iterated character here. If it matches it, what we can do is it's a valid thing, right? So we can go ahead and remove it from the stack. If it's not, however, it doesn't match up, then basically we know it is an invalid uh, parentheses. So the input is basically invalid. So we can just return false here. So with that being said, if we manage to remove everything from the holder, basically then that is a valid parenthesis because there's nothing left. We managed to find the balance between the opening and closing parentheses version. So here we're just going to check if holder is empty and just return that. So if it is empty, then true, it is a valid input string. If it's not empty, then basically it's false. Right? So basically that's about it. Looks kind of right. So alright, let's just try and run this. And hopefully that works. Alright, looks good. Let me just run a few more cases here. Looks good. I'm just going to submit this. Hopefully I get it right. The first try here. And there we have it. That is the solution. So just to recap, basically we are using a stack, and essentially when we encounter the opening version of the bracket, we append the closing version of it to the stack. And whenever we encounter the closing version of the parentheses, we're just going to remove it from the stack. And once this loop is done, we're just going to check if the stack is still empty. Sorry, if the stack is empty. If it's empty, then basically it is a valid input string. If it's not empty, then basically it's false. And whenever during the for loop iteration here, we encounter the pattern that doesn't match up, then we know the input string is not valid. So that's about it. That's all for this question. If you guys find this video helpful, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. I'm trying to grow this channel, and I'm going to put out more videos every week. And also, just kind of like leave a feedback in the comment whether this dark theme template here, because previously I always used the light version. If you guys like this dark version, I'm just going to keep it as it is. So thanks very much for your time. Take care and bye bye.